Morning, it's Saturday the 4th of February 2017 and this is my blog update. As always, I'm really mindful that it's been a little while longer than I had intended between my video blog updates. But again, as always, it's a process and certainly these past, however long it's been since I did my last update, I've just felt quite overwhelmed with all of the things in my life that are changing, that I'm needing to find a way to navigate and adapt to those changes, and also to find in that kind of that process of adapting what it is that I'm doing it all for. I need to find my motivation. I needed to find my purpose, I suppose, or refine my purpose and kind of maybe redefine what my purpose is. And that takes time, or that takes the time that it takes for me to process all of that. And I find that these blog updates are really reflective of when I have processed enough of whatever those challenges are, if you like, to then be able to articulate that into either words on my written blogs or in a form of video. And I find I have done a couple of blog updates that I haven't shared in the last couple of months, and really the reason for that is because the point at which I did the update, I was in a highly emotional state, and it was capturing a moment in time, and it's not truly representative of a sort of a summary of where I'm at. So I didn't think that they would actually be helpful blogs to share to truly reflect a more balanced synopsis, let's say. So yesterday I was at Harefield Hospital for a lung transplant assessment clinic appointment. When I met with them in November of last year, the conversation that I had, which again on my previous blog I mentioned, was I asked them to give me a little bit more time to mull over the prospect of going active on the transplant list, and for me to enjoy Christmas and New Year with my family. So yesterday was the next appointment that we'd scheduled in to revisit. I had some further tests, which actually I wasn't anticipating. Going to Harefield at this stage is still relatively new for me in terms of knowing what's normal and what to expect. So yesterday I redid my lung function. They did an X-ray and took some bloods. I also met with a gentleman from the psychologist team. Neil and I met him together, which was really, really helpful. And then we met with one of the transplant consultants, Dr. Reed. And in short, I went in with the hope that my lung function and fundamentally my lung function scores would be at least the same, if not better, than when I first met the transplant team. And also intending to say to them that I would like to have a year between now and my next appointment with them, because of the things that I wanted to achieve in that time. However, it is what it is. My lung function was significantly down on my original scores with them, and Dr. Reid rightly so highlighted the fact that if my lung function continues to deteriorate at the rate that it currently is, despite everything that I'm doing, then I am running out of time. However, I've also had a discussion when I was in my last admission with the Brompton that there is a small possibility, or a reasonable possibility, maybe more than small, of me having access to a drug called Orkambi, which has been shown to, in some patients, at best, increase their lung function scores by a few percent, and hopefully help to stabilise the rate of lung function decline. Now, I didn't have that option before that I was aware of, so that has entered into some of my decision making as to what I do moving forward. So hence why I went in yesterday anticipating asking for a year, but with the lung function scores and the conversation I had both with the psychologist and with Dr. Reid, the consultant, we agreed, although I was a little bit more resistant in accepting, but I actually agree with her, that we can revisit transplant again in 6 months' time. I'm just not ready. I'm just not ready to sign on the dotted line. One, to go active on the list, because once you go active on the list, it's not just the potential of actually getting a new set of lungs and the consequential, following period of time and challenges that presents. It's also the fact that when you're active on a list, that has a knock-on effect on what you can and can't do in terms of your normal life. So you could potentially have a phone call at any moment that a call has come, and that potentially can be a really life-changing moment, because they might be actually the lungs that are right for you, and you might then go through with the surgery, and then obviously that's when things really change. So as with everything in life, we are all individuals. We all have our own set of challenges, and we all have our own set of coping strategies. So for me, now is not the right time to actively go on the transplant list. I am very mindful that, given my profile, so my blood group, my size of my lung cavity, and the other element that they consider, which is something called your HLA typing, which I won't go into, but fundamentally the profile that I fit, they've told me, and Dr. Reid strongly reinforced with me yesterday, that if I was going to go active and I did hope to receive a transplant, my wait time typically is going to be between 2 and 3 years. And given what I know about going on the list in terms of the boxes that you tick in terms of the types of lungs that you're willing to accept, I know that probably, likely, closer to 3, more like 3 years for me, and I appreciate and accept that. And I appreciate and accept that, as she says, that fundamentally I am sort of running out of time. And that massively was reinforced for me yesterday when she went through one of my CT scans, or my recent CT scan of my lungs, and she said to me, look at the level of damage in your lungs. They're not gonna last a huge amount longer. And she offered that someone as fit and healthy as me, someone who's relatively young, who looks after themselves, they can, despite the levels of damage in the lungs, they can seem to adapt and compensate really well, even for the lack of oxygen. And that's something I've I've significantly found, and actually if there's one of the biggest challenges that I've really struggled to accept and kind of get my head round, is how I'm still able to do what I'm doing, still able to look the way I look in terms of healthy. It's really not been easy for me to accept that I've got that level of damage in my lungs, and that my prognosis is as negative, if you like, in that sense, as it is. And something that she said yesterday, or the way she said it, really hit home with me, that I can only adapt and compensate for so long. So I think, one, I'm at a place where I accept and appreciate that at some point I do want to have a double lung transplant. So that is a big weight off my shoulders, because for a long time I really, really, really struggled with, did I even want to accept that I would be in need of a double lung transplant? So that's a big box ticked for me in terms of progress and acceptance. I do want to receive a double lung transplant. The question then is actually when. So, as I say, for me, we have referred my next assessment, if you like, for 6 months' time. And what I'm hopeful in that time is that I will maybe be able to start, or have access to and start, the Orkambi medication. Very hopeful about that. So in 6 months' time, I'm going to have a much better picture of, one, my rate of decline in my lung function over a longer period of time. Also, it will give me time to readjust the other things in my life. So how I continue to run my businesses the way I do. And I suppose kind of putting into place certain strategies with Neil and my mum and my sister in terms of, how we're going to navigate the next few years. The other thing that's happened is, in my head has shifted, is I now have hope. Coming into the new year, for the first time ever, I didn't have any goals. Normally I do a mood board, I do a goal board, and I have really visual and tangible kind of goals that I'm striving for. I always have done. It's a really effective way of, moving yourself forward. And I really struggled this year because I think I was in a state of fear and shock and just so overwhelmed. I almost couldn't see, I didn't have any clarity on anything. So I'm so relieved that I'm in a much better place now, where I have short, medium and long-term goals. I can visualise them. I've got the images that I use to focus on those and drive me forward. I have hope again, in the sense that actually I see transplant as a positive thing, whereas before I felt I was a failure by accepting that, or accepting that I would need that. So I've completely shifted that. So I'm in so much of a more positive mindset than I have been in a really, in a good few months. I feel happier, clearer, and I feel that I've got the strength inside me that maybe I was questioning whether I had, to go on further, to really live, I suppose. I questioned for a short time, after everything that I've been through. I questioned whether I even had it in me anymore. I just felt so exhausted that I had to kind of re-find my reason for living and my reason for fighting, which I seem to have done now. And so much of that has been looking in the mirror. So much of that has been me facing my deepest fears. So much of that has been having to open myself up to help. And when I say help, I mean from even Neil, being even more honest with him about my experiences every day. I have in the past tended to protect him, and I haven't done him or myself actually any favours. And maybe also from my mum and my sister, as open as I have been in many ways, generally, not just with them, but just generally, is I suppose in my attempt to protect people, the people that I love, my friends as well, I suppose, I haven't been entirely honest with how much I'm struggling at times, not always, at times. And so maybe that hasn't been interpreted in the way that I would like it to have been interpreted, and also maybe it hasn't helped people in the way that the intention was there to help. So I feel more comfortable being honest, and not that I haven't been honest, but open about the real truth of how I'm feeling and the challenges that life has been presenting. And I suppose also I'm really mindful that I don't want people to catch me in a negative place. That's not to say I don't have moments of being negative. Linky, come here, sweetheart. Good boy, come here. I don't want people to... I don't want to be seen at my worst, and that's something that maybe I'm appreciating that now it is actually a positive thing, because it's the whole truth, if that makes sense. So that's my blog update. I hope that makes sense. I hope that's helpful. And I hope that it answers any questions that anyone might have. If anyone does have any questions, in the interests of me being authentic and open and sharing my experience to help raise awareness of cystic fibrosis and life with it, please message me with your questions. I don't know that you don't know something unless you ask, and I think I, up till now, have assumed that people understand more than they do, and that's not because I'm not open to sharing that. I think it's people are afraid to ask, so please don't be afraid to ask. I'm sharing these personal blogs because I would like to help my input, my input to share my experience to help make a difference in whatever way I can. So please ask if anything's not clear, because actually by asking me, you're helping me, and you're helping me to make the difference that I want to make. So as always, thank you for caring enough to watch my blogs. Thank you for your continued support in every way that you offer that to me. If you think that sharing this blog helps, please share. And genuinely, I love you all. So, ta-da!